Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. My name is Suzanne, and I'm the head coach at Grace Financial Coaching. And today we're talking to Alan Lazaros. And after experiencing two life-altering car accidents in a short time on Earth, Alan began questioning everything he was doing. Found himself at an all-time low. Alan was searching for answers and found author Bronnie Ware and speaker Tony Robbins. Their books and talks guided our guest, Alan, and helped him make the choice to go all in on self-improvement. While on this journey, Alan discovered his own heart-driven but no BS approach to inspiring, motivating, and educating others. Today, Alan leads a global team at Next Level University. You guys have heard of them on here before. Alan has given hundreds of trainings all over the world and has happily completed thousands of one-on-one coaching calls with clients, helping them to get to the next level of their life. Hey, Alan, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I always want to start and end with gratitude because in the beginning, it was crickets and no one really cared what I had to say. So I'm very grateful. I never want to forget that. I think it's important to start there. And I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago after that car accident that you had mentioned briefly in the intro there. And they really helped me reorient my life in a more constructive direction. And I heard all these eloquent speakers who were so well-spoken, and now I've become one of them, so I'm very grateful. It's a dream come true. Thank you for having me. And also, in the intro, when you said the dumbest thing you've ever done with money, it's just a funny, playful, awesome topic that I think is really important because I think most people want to pretend they've made better choices than they really have, and that's ironically perpetuating the issue because everyone makes dumb money choices. Everyone and every day, right?
The majority of people I get who will contact me about being on this show, there's a small percentage that when I have them fill out the questionnaire or when I talk to their podcast producer about, hey, what's the topic that we're going to cover? There is a 1 to 2% population out there that they don't talk. They're not going to tell me. They're not going to talk about it. And they'll say something like, well, they've helped clients who have done dumb things. And I'm like, we're not here to talk about your client. We're here to talk about you because not every financial expert or self-improvement expert has been an expert this whole time. We need to make these mistakes to get to that level, don't we?
There's no possibility that that's real. There's no one on earth who hasn't made dumb money choices. No one on earth. Even the most financial prudent investors, I guarantee you Warren Buffett would say, oh, I was such an idiot.
Oh, yeah.
That's the irony in life is when you do become an expert, an actual expert in the real world, not on Instagram,
right?
You realize how dumb you were. And you want to talk about it. It's important to talk about. So I'm grateful. Thank you for having me. And we can talk about all my poor choices.
Yes. I would even argue that being an expert, getting to that expert level actually helps you see that you're still messing up.
Oh, yeah.
That you're still making mistakes. And maybe they're not financial, but maybe they're relational. Maybe they're, but if you're not going to ever reach that expert, top of the mountain, the peak, if you stop and you say, I don't make mistakes anymore.
No, the moment that, there goes your humility. And it's a mountain that gets higher as you climb it. I'm about to be 36 in November, even though I look 12. I'm hoping to hit puberty at 36. I think that'll be good for me. But anyways, so if I look at me at 25 compared to 35, of course I made terrible choices. And if I go into the future at 45, I'm going to think right now that I was also making terrible choices. So what happens when you better your best so much that your new worst becomes better than your old best? That, I think, is the mountain. That's the metaphorical mountain that gets higher as you climb it. So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And we can talk about all the blunders and the mistakes because that's how most people learn. The difference between wisdom and knowledge is wisdom includes knowledge plus experience plus reflection. Mm-hmm. And everyone is failing forward in this life in every regard. And some of us are just doing it quicker than others.
I also do like to think that the people who listen to the show consistently are hearing some of these mistakes and maybe they won't make those mistakes. But, listen, we all got to learn on our own time.
Well, they'll make them less than we did. That's the
Exactly.
goal. Yeah,
Exactly.
or at least they'll be more aware of them. And
yeah,
say,
maybe they'll make them earlier in life so that that they
There you
can
go.
step forward to the top of the mountain. So
I always say
being
that to my
said,
clients. I say, I'm not going to help you skip steps. I'm going to accelerate. And maybe what I did in a decade, you can do in 5 years, but it's not going to be in 5 minutes.
No.
Yeah.
No. And that's, oh my gosh. So let's take that and go into what you are doing at Next Level University. For people who are consistent listeners, we spoke with Kevin Palmieri before. He is also with Next Level University. So tell me what you guys do there and what you do specifically.
Okay, so Next Level University, it started out as 2 different podcasts, Conversations Change Lives podcast, Hyperconscious podcast. He was the host of Hyperconscious. I was the host of Conversations Change Lives. He was my first guest. I was his first guest. And then we ended up just doing the show together. And then we eventually rebranded to Next Level University. But underneath Next Level University, it's a podcast, but ultimately the brand in the business. And it's about success and fulfillment and achievement and self-awareness. And if you want to improve your life, you have to improve yourself. It's next level you, the pun is intended, meaning there's no matter how far you get to the point of this conversation already, no matter how much of an expert you are, quote unquote, there's always a next level. No matter how painful your past has been, no matter how painful your present is, you can take personal responsibility and get to the next level. So it's health, wealth, life, and love. So wealth is one of the things that we teach, inspire, motivate, and educate on. So this is very aligned. As for what we do, so Kev is the podcast guy who also coaches. I'm the coach who also podcasts, and that will be very evident to anyone who listened to both episodes. He's much better at casting a wider net. I am an esoteric weirdo who's really good at one-on-one. I have 28 people on my roster currently. I'm a business coach. I help people start, grow, scale, and monetize their podcasts, their businesses online. Kevin is the podcaster who helps people start, grow, scale, and monetize their podcasts online. Yes. Some podcasters want to start a business. Some business owners need a podcast for lead gen. And so everything in between. And then some people just want to improve themselves and learn from us. So that's what Next Level University is ultimately about. We have a book club. We have monthly meetups every month. We have our own journal now called the Next Level Dreamliner. And we have a 20-person team. And so it's grown to such an overwhelming extent. In the best way, and I'm
I was
super
gonna say that's
overwhelmed.
a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's the best. It's way better than the alternative, which is not growing at all. Businesses fail for 2 reasons: they grow too slow or they grow too fast. I'm happy to be on the second one. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's
and you and Kevin both have had kind of things happen in your personal life growing up that were traumatic. If you wouldn't mind touching on those.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was 2 years old, my father passed away when he was 28. He was the primary breadwinner, for lack of better phrasing. My mom was 31. My older sister was 6. I was raised by my mom and sister. Kevin was raised by his mom and his grandma. He didn't meet his dad until he was 27. And so neither one of us had fathers growing up. So I think unconsciously, the whole Next Level University, Next Level You thing, pun intended, I think we were trying to unconsciously become the male role models we never had. But ultimately, father passed away at 2. I had a stepfather from age 3 to 14. My real last name is actually McCorkle. Yeah, big Irish cat. Well, my last name Lazarus is a Greek last name. So people that are Greek, they go, Lazarus? Because they see me, blonde hair, blue-eyed, not a hair on me. And I go, no. That's my stepdad's last name. My real last name is McCorkle. So John McCorkle was my father. Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette. Big Irish Catholic family.
Oh, my gosh.
One of 6. And so the shortest possible version I can give, when we were becoming the Lazaruses, we didn't associate much with the McCorkles, just out of unconscious avoidance probably. Then my stepfather leaves at 14, and since this is a money podcast, we can talk about this. We went from ski trips, motorcycles, snowmobiles, yacht, 90s with economic boom times, particularly in the U.S., and he worked for a company called Agfa that did hospital computers during the dot-com era. So we did very well financially, even though my mom and stepdad did not get along. And that's the polite way to put it. So he leaves at 14. He gets the yacht and the apartment building. We get the house and the dog. And I go from boats, ski trips, yacht, deep sea fishing to I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low, and I don't even know how I'm going to go to college because the college I want to go to is WPI. It's like a mini MIT, one of the top engineering schools in the world, $50,000 a year, and this is back then.
Right.
Yeah, so I got straight A's through high school, bootstrapped. got all the scholarships and financial aid I possibly could. I got in. I got my computer engineering degree, master's in business, off to the races in corporate. And I thought that wealth was the answer. So I paid off 84 grand worth of college debt in a single year back in 2014. I invested all the rest of my money. I went from 65 to 85, 85 to 105, 105 to 125, and then I landed at about 180 at the peak of my corporate career. Then I got in the car accident that you mentioned in the intro.
Yes.
And that is when I realized, okay, wealth and success and achievement and professional development, computer engineer, MBA, resume, cover letter, LinkedIn, that's not going to do it in terms of fulfillment.
Right. It's going to do something. It's not going to do everything.
Exactly. And so after that, I got in that car accident. Unfortunately, I was physically okay, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, I've seen pictures of my dad's car. I've seen pictures of my car, and they don't look very different. So I knew this is the sort of second chance my dad never got. So for me, that was my Phoenix burn down existential crisis, quarter life crisis, where I just was filled with every regret of every poor choice. After that, I quit drinking. I went all in on fitness. I went all in on my dreams. I went all in on holistic self-improvement. I was a fitness model, fitness competitor, fitness athlete, and fitness coach as well. And then we started the podcasts, as I mentioned. And then I eventually went from fitness coach to mindset coach to life coach to peak performance coach, eventually to business consultant, and now business coach. And I also coach couples as well with my girlfriend. But
cool.
Now we have multiple podcasts and a 20-person team, and it's global now, and we're heard in 175 countries. So that's the shortest possible version
from A to B,
I can give you from A to B of condensing 35. But ultimately, when it comes to the money piece, it's been a roller coaster.
And we're adding not just the personal finance side. There's a simplicity about when I work with W-2 clients. We're a married couple. We each have our own W-2, and that's it. There's no, side income. Yeah. There's no 1099s. There's no freelancing. There's no alimony. There's no child support. I just have my W-2 couples, my W-2 clients. And there is definitely a simplicity about that of being in a stable job.
I'm not one of those.
Right. Being in a stable job, knowing what's coming, pretty much knowing exactly how the taxes are going to pan out every year.
I know.
Until we have kid number one, then it's then it's even better. So there's a simplicity to that. And so you're adding not just the personal finance side of what I talk about here, but also the business finance side, because once you layer that on, and a lot of us start off as S corps, some of us start off as LLCs. So your social security is tied to something usually when you're starting out. And so it's another layer of stress, another
it gets
layer
so
of
stressful. It's stressing me out right now. Yeah, that whole thing with LLC, and Emilia and I have 3 businesses between the two of us. And so, yeah, to me, the access that we have to because we're the business owners, right. The access that we have to capital, I try to think of it as all one sort of, and we're also intending on being married, and even though we're not yet legally and all this different stuff. So, but yeah, so I digress. I leave it to you to be the host, but ultimately, yes, it complexifies so quickly when you have a bigger team. And it makes sense why so few businesses actually scale, because it's so brutal. It's not even remotely enjoyable. I don't even know how to explain how bad growing and scaling a business is, even though people make it look so nice. And it is, like, there are parts that are awesome. I make my own schedule. I also work 80 hours a freaking week every week, but I do make my own schedule, and I am the CEO, and I do get to decide. And so I think you pay for freedom with massive pain and suffering, personally.
There is a gentleman who listens to this podcast, and I can't wait for him to hear this because I'll get a text message as soon as he does. He has started his own law firm, and is at a stage where by the time he listens to this, he may have brought on his first employee, but he has asked my advice in the past about hiring somebody. And I was like, yeah, just don't hire anybody.
Yeah. Wait as long as you can. What's it's like the movie Billy Madison where it's like, cherish middle school. Stay as long as you can.
You don't know how good you have it when you don't have people under you. Because I came from corporate real estate, and I was managing teams of people, and we were managing massive buildings for pharmaceutical companies and big companies that deliver things to your doors every single day. And we were managing massive properties. And the hardest part was managing the people.
Always. Leadership is the most important skill in the 21st century. It's also the most challenging, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I love what you guys do over there. I mean, I've actually have a client right now who's working with you guys
Really?
without me telling him to do so.
Perfect.
But yeah, you guys are excellent. If you guys have not checked out Next Level University, first of all, go back and listen to my interview with Kevin, and then get onto the website that is going to be in the show notes below. But we are here to talk about
Thank you.
Alan's the dumbest thing Alan's ever done with money personally.
The dumbest thing. It's tough to pick the dumbest because there's been so many. I think I'll give the esoteric high-level answer, and then I'll give the practical one.
Yep.
I'm a visionary optimist obsessive who wants to change the world. And while I do think it's possible in the long run, I think I'm delusional in the short run. And Kevin has made that very clear because he's what I call productive paranoia. So I'm like, yeah, we got this. We can totally do it, which is good. And he's the one who level sets and keeps me practical. Thank goodness, because you need that harmonization.
Yes.
And without me, he probably wouldn't have even tried. Without him, I would have went off the rails and overly invested in the future at the expense of the now. And so that's the esoteric answer, which is I am just too optimistic. Everything takes at least twice as much time, effort, and money as I originally anticipate. At least. Probably 4x, let's be honest. And so for the optimists out there who are visionary, you are wrong-o and delusional, just like me, in the short run. Because the compound effect, for anyone who understands the way the math works, long-term, you're going to be accurate. It's going to be amazing. You can totally do it. But short-term, business is about who can survive the longest. I always joke. I say Coca-Cola and Sam's Cola. Everyone's going to buy a Coca-Cola because no one knows who the hell Sam is. And Sam Walton with Walmart.
Yes.
But people are certainty-driven. So when you're in the beginning in business, you're in so much trouble. And if you overly invest in the future like I did, you overly invest, you hire too quickly, you pay too much, you're overly generous. I mean, you're screwed. And this is the duality you have to hold because a lot of people villainize business leaders.
Oh, totally.
Because
that's something that needs to stop also.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It's you're hating on Bezos, but you love Amazon. It's and also here's the other thing that's so frustrating. You think that I'm a money hungry, horrible person because I'm trying to pay people less. I'm going to go out of business if I don't.
Right.
And by the way, if I go out of business, all the money goes. So everything goes.
Those 20 people. It's not that you're
exactly.
Like, oh, you're so mean because you're not paying those 20 people enough. If you pay them too much, 20 people will be out of work.
Exactly.
Right.
But that's so. There's a certain level of awareness that isn't there. There's a gap in awareness. So these business owners look evil, quote unquote, and some of them are. That's the problem. Some of them totally are, right? But some of us are just trying to make sure we grow and scale a profitable business that can last through the ages. And by the way, that's how we build together. So you create a ladder. Okay, let's start low and let's increase. And one of the other things, I'll be brief about this, but the global economy now in the 21st century, we have people where I'm paying, 15 times minimum wage? Because minimum wage is so low in other countries. And that's another thing people don't realize. So they hear the number, but they don't know the context. Right? That's like $800,000 in the US, but they don't know that. So they think, oh, you're greedy. And so anyways, be careful with what numbers you share and being a villain and all this different stuff. And that's a whole nother conversation. But the dumbest thing I ever did with money is be overly optimistic.
Okay.
I think in the short run,
how does that play out in a practical sense?
You cannot be overly generous. You can't. If generosity is a luxury that you must earn through buttoning up.
Okay.
So we have a charity. We do events multiple times a year. It's for kids without fathers. It's great. But if we're not careful,
right,
our heart will destroy our business.
Oh, that's a great point. Because you want to do more, right?
Yes.
So you have, let's say, I'm just going to narrow it down. Let's say we got one event a year and we spend $100,000 on it, right? Mm-hmm. But Alan is feeling particularly generous. Kevin's not in that staff meeting that day to reel him in. And
it's actually the opposite in this case because Kev wants to he doesn't understand the context of the numbers. So he's like, yeah, we're good. No. We're not good, right? He'll give a 50% tip randomly at dinner. And so the dumbest thing I've ever done with money for both of us, and this is probably the problem, we're both wicked, very generous with money.
Yeah.
I just said wicked, so I'm giving out the fact that I'm from Massachusetts.
I was just gonna. I went to college in Connecticut, so I knew it as soon as you said
Got it. Nice. Okay, so wicked generous.
Yeah.
So we've had to rein ourselves in because we're these heart-driven, want to be generous, and some people are overly generous. Some people are overly buttoned up, and they're never generous. And so you've got to find five. And so everything's
there's
a spectrum.
Also a trade-off to that too, because the open hand ideology of just let the money sit there, don't throw it at everybody, but don't,
exactly hold on loosely, but don't let go. And this is the giving, and the givers need to set limits because takers have none. That's Kevin and I.
Yes.
Some business owners are not. They're looking for more, and they're not giving enough to their clients and that kind of thing. So I really appreciate the recommendation, by the way, earlier. I appreciate it. Okay, so that's the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. Now practically, let me give you an example of a dumb thing I did with money. So I showed you this before. These are PIP decks, and these ads got me. Speaking of overly optimistic, I was leading a 22-person team at the time. It's 20 now, but I was okay. And look, this guy at the top of the hill, little cartoon character, brand tactics. Ditch dull business, create standout brands. And I figured, you know what, once a day, one card a day, I'm going to come up here and strategy super system. I'm going to rapidly develop a unique and powerful value offering. And I thought I was going to use these. I've had these for probably about a year. I bought all of them. Facebook ads got me.
I was going to say, so this must have been social media.
$850. Oh yeah, $850. We had a big month. Who here has ever had a big month and then went off the reservation? That was me. And so I joke, and Kev's like, dude, as far as dumb purchases, at least it's investing in your personal development. Brother, I haven't used them once.
Right.
So at the end of the day, all of us are in this spectrum, I think, of abundance and scarcity. Some people are overly abundant, and other people are overly scarce. Overly scarce is I only leave a 5% tip because I'm hoarding money. Overly abundant is I leave a 50% tip every time because I want to feel good about being generous. Both of those people are going to go out of business. What you want to do is find the center point. You want to find the optimal stopping problem. You want to find the Goldilocks, too hot, too cold.
Happy medium.
The happy medium, exactly, yes. And that's contextual based on what's in your bank account, cash on hand, overhead, revenue, all that kind of stuff.
Now, how do you do that with Kevin? Like, how would you two sit down and say, okay, this is what we want to spend on X. We could spend X minus Y. We could spend X plus Y. How do you guys control that between the two of you with extremely different personalities?
Okay, so Kev is really, and there's three main fundamentals of finance that we talk about in our company. There's really only three things to master, I think. And again, this is just my perspective. The first one is earn more money. Kevin is really good at earning more money. He's the chief sales officer. He's good with people. He's good at earning more money. He always has been. The second one is optimize expenses, aka limit your spending. He's so bad at that, it's not even funny. And he was the CFO for a long time. You know those people who just love spending money? They love it. He's one of those. He loves spending money. I don't like spending money as much. But I'm not as good at earning it. So he's really good at earning money. Yep. Really good at spending
really
it.
Good at spending
so
it, right.
The three master skills are earn more money. The second one is spend less money. The third one is invest the difference intelligently. Everyone has a really good one, a decent one, and a really bad one.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. So his really good one, we'll talk about Kev here. If you send him this, don't worry. This is nothing he doesn't know. He's really good at earning money.
Right.
Doesn't invest it well. Decent at cutting spending now that I've been on.
Gotten better.
Okay. And he was CFO before, probably when you interviewed him. So I've been CFO for the last 6 months. Things are buttoning up.
Yep. Okay.
Things are buttoning up. He's like, dude, I told you not to make me CFO. It's like, well, I didn't think I could be CEO and CFO. So now he's the chief sales officer. So we're good. He's the people person. Leave the numbers to the engineer. All right. So how do we do this? I have to put pressure on Kev to. So every single day I look at the expenses of the business. And so for those of you who aren't business owners, the difference between personal finance and business finance, the fundamentals are exactly the same. So track your spending.
Yep.
So I'm tracking our spending every single day, and I send him a list of, hey, do we need this? Hey, do we need this? The last time I sent him a huge list of all the expenses of the company, because our overhead, we're trying to minimize overhead. I said, find me 3 ways to save money. I don't care if it's $3. Find me 3 ways to save money. So that's kind of how we do it. Because right now, and he tells me, he says, well, what's the budget? How much can I spend? And I said, right now, dude, it's spend as little as possible because our overhead has grown quicker than our revenue. And right now we need the cash on hand. And so I have these 7 fundamentals of finance I can go through super quick if you are interested. Okay. So the first one is gross income. That's the total amount in. The second one is total expenses. That's the total amount out. The third one is net income or net revenue, depending on business or personal, which is just, okay, so let's say the gross in is 100. Let's say the expenses is 80 after taxes and fees and blah, blah, blah. So you have a net of 20. Okay, that's your profit. Then there's profit margin. You don't really have to worry about that if you're in personal finance. And then after that, you have cash on hand. Cash on hand is what most people look at. That's the number in the bank account. So you can actually have cash in your sock drawer. You can have cash in your wallet. You can also have, it's any capital that you have immediate access to that's liquid.
Liquid, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so cash on hand, I always say you need at least 10% of goal gross. What I mean by that is if you're trying to gross, so our goal gross is 500,000 this year.
Okay.
Gross. Definitely not take home.
Right.
Gross. Okay. We need 50K cash on hand to not be in scarcity.
Okay.
But you don't want 500K sitting there because now you're wasting money and time, right? So you need to reinvest that money. Mm-hmm. And so 10% of goal gross is what I think business, that's what I recommend my business owners do. Okay. The other ones is total debt. The next one is total assets. Everything you own above $1,000. If it's less than 1,000, don't even count it.
Got it.
And then the last one would be net worth. Net worth is your total cash on hand plus total assets minus total debts.
Total debt. Yep, that makes sense.
And so one of the things that I find is going to connect to something we talked about earlier is people are like, well, Jeff Bezos, he's so greedy, he has $90 billion. He doesn't have $90 billion.
No.
He owns 11% of Amazon, which if he sold his stock would be worth $90 billion.
Right.
So, but he doesn't want to do that because he's investing in the future. And so a lot of people think that people that are wealthy are greedy, and a lot of them are. So I understand why, but not all of them are. And the truth is a lot of people just don't have the awareness. They actually think he has $90 billion in a bank account somewhere. Some people. It's like
that would be right. That would be.
And in their head, they're like, "Well, you could feed people with that." All this, it's like, no. That's in a company.
The way I explain it to some people is it's monopoly money. Or it's on a screen. Like, don't picture it as sitting in a cookie jar on his counter or sitting in a bank account, like you said. It's kind of monopoly money that's floating around in the world.
But the reason people don't understand that is because we don't have conversations about money because money's so taboo. So that's why I'm so grateful you're having this conversation, because it's been so fascinating to see people who actually think that.
Oh, yeah.
And what they don't know is that Amazon stock is at a certain price. He owns 11% of the total stock. And if he sold the stock today, which he's not going to, it would be worth $90 billion or whatever it is, right?
And then tomorrow it might be worth Y.
Exactly, which is why people lose. I lost $200 million overnight. No, you didn't. You lost $200 worth of value overnight. But no one really gets that, it turns out. And then the people who do get it don't know no one else gets it.
Yes, we all look at each other like we're crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm glad you're solving that problem. And
I'm working on it.
Yeah, you got this.
Well, so now going back to what you said about the dumbest thing you've ever done, what would you change if you could go back and not invest, not be overly generous, not invest too far into the future? How would you have reined yourself in if you had been able to do that?
So I thought, and this is my naive, I joke with Kev, I say we lost our naive this year. 2024 has been, and again, in personal life, as far as adversity goes, we're healthy. Our intimate partners are great. Our relationships are great. Adversity in life, not really. In business, It's been so much adversity this year. It's just all the naive just got stripped from us. Certain team members and all this stuff. So I said that the naive boys are gone now. We're a real business now. So what was my point of that?
How would you go back and change? If you could go back, would you change what you had done? Did you kind of grow into it? Would you actually keep it the same?
I would expand less quickly. We used to think, okay, mastery, impact, and then profitability. Mastery is get good at what you do.
10,000
Impact
hours.
is help people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Profitability is after you master your craft, and impact people, you need to get paid. I thought that profitability would come third on its own. That was naive as hell. Particularly in the personal growth industry. I think most companies would grow a ton if they focused more on personal growth. We're a personal growth company. That's not the issue. Personal growth is not the issue. Profitability is the issue. Got it. So I would have focused way more on money.
Yeah.
Because paradoxically, it's like those people who say work smart, not hard. Ironically, the people who say that are usually fairly lazy. I think that saying's dumb. So paradoxically, I actually should try to work smarter because I'm just grinding all the time.
Right. You're doing
so it's a
80-hour
paradox.
work.
So for Kevin and I, if I could go back, I would focus way more on profitability and ironically way less on growth and contribution. Even though I do think those are the three that matter. I think every company is growth, contribution, and profitability. And if you're overly focused on profitability at the expense of growth and contribution, you're going to stagnate. We were overly focused on growth and impact, growth and contribution at the expense of our own lifestyle. And what I didn't realize is that your credibility takes a huge hit when you don't have a good lifestyle. Why would someone coach with me as a business owner if I don't have a great lifestyle? Got it. I need to be seen as successful in the areas that other people value. Kevin jokes. He said, "You're going to be the best speaker in the world under a bridge, man." What are we doing here, right? Because I was so overly generous and so optimistic because I assumed everyone was as growth oriented as me. And it turns out that I joke with Kev. I say, we're selling kale outside of a candy store. It's not only do people avoid painful feedback, but we're trying to sell it.
You're selling it. Yeah. And we are so candy driven in today's society. If Alan and I got off on that tangent, we'd be here for another 30 minutes. So I'm going to let him go. But one thing I will say is I think we need to eliminate the do what you love and the money will follow cliche.
Yeah. It's not true at all.
It's not true.
Not true at all.
True.
It's wildly untrue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Alan, thank you.
And eventually, if you focus on how to make money with it, long term, you might make money. That's the new saying.
It doesn't sound nearly as concise and neat and cute.
I know, which is why it's probably true.
Alan, thank you so much. I know we could go on for another 30 minutes talking about all of these, but we really appreciate you being here. Check out Alan and Kevin on Next Level Universe. The contact information is in our show notes. And I hope everybody will join us next week for another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. Thanks again, Alan.
Thank you, Suzanne.